Hello, and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
And Amy Cornell.
And I love this show. We've been wanting to do this show for a while. I have my book on local book marketing is coming out soon. In fact, it may be up for pre-order when this episode hits. I hope. It's taken a while to get this finished because we've been so busy, which is a high quality problem to have, but it is finally going to hit the market, and I'm super excited about it. And it's going to be part of a series because I'm finishing up 5-minute book marketing for authors, which is going to be part of this new series that I'm putting out. And so we thought that it was a really good opportunity to talk about local book marketing, because it is so often overlooked. And first, I want to just remind y'all, if you haven't noticed our new logo, we're very excited about the new show logo. We thought that we needed to kind of, get a logo that was really more in vibe with the show. And we didn't spend a lot of time like brainstorming it or anything like that. We just decided that it was time, and we stumbled on this idea for this logo and we went with it. So we hope that you love it. We'd love to get your feedback as well as any show ideas, show feedback, all the things. If you are not part of our texting crew, text the word podcast to 888-402-8940 and let us know what you think of the show and show ideas, questions, all the things. All right, so let's dive in. I love the idea. So part of the reason why I really have been wanting to do this show is because a lot of times authors they look at local book marketing as playing small. They think, well, I really want like the national, I want the big, I want all the big things. And local book marketing is not only smart, but it's also strategic. And it's a great way to get to expand your brand out. Amy, you've been to a lot of local events in your area, right? Local author events specifically, right?
Yes. Honestly, I am 100, and obviously based on what we do, I am clearly a sucker for this. But anytime I see a local author anywhere doing anything, I buy the book, I get it signed, I ask the questions, I get my kiddos involved if they're with me, because it's such a cool opportunity. And even though we work with authors every day, it's like, ooh, seeing one in the wild is so exciting.
I know, it really is.
And you would think if anybody would be over that and a little jaded, it would be me, but absolutely not. So if I still get excited about it, then I can assure you, all of you listening, your readers, your potential readers, 100% get excited about seeing local authors out and about doing the things.
Well, and I want to make sure that we really, before y'all turn this off and think, oh, this is just about book signings and a library talk. No, this is not about that. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to write my book on local book marketing, because there are so many creative things that you can do locally that are completely untapped by the majority of authors, and that I'm betting that you haven't even thought of. So first, let's give this like a little bit of a framework. I mean, I think if you're thinking outside of the bookstore box, so to speak, and you're thinking outside of libraries, you might say, well, then where am I going? Like, am I just setting up a table on the street corner with? We actually had an author years ago who wore those sandwich signs, right? That people like. Yeah. He actually rocked around town with the sandwich sign. I thought that was awesome. I have a picture of it somewhere. He was amazing, but that's not what we're telling you to do.
Unless you want to, and if you do, please post photos and tag us.
Yes, absolutely. I applauded him. I thought that was so fun and so creative. So I think that the first piece of this is, as you're kind of thinking about, okay, so I'm maybe a little bit on board with this local marketing. Where are your readers? What's your book vibe? Like, where do your readers go, other than like and bookstores and libraries are still part of this, but think kind of beyond that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, do you want to run through some of these with me? These creative, ideas?
I know, this is very exciting. I love this part. This is where it's like, I wish we could do this all day long.
Yeah, me too.
But anything I love that this one's mine. Anything related to libations or food, honestly, is always going to be a hit, right?
Right.
Like
exactly.
you do drinks, you do food, it's going to work. And the bonus of alcohol being liquid courage, I'm just going to leave that there. We all know what we're talking about. But I love these books and bubbly, which is amazing because everybody's more fun and exciting when they've had a little bubbly in them. So let's be
Right.
honest. Like this is a perfect recipe for a fun event. Thrillers and whiskey night, cookbook and a tasting event, some sort of fitness or lifestyle book with a mini workout class or something like that. I mean, these are just,
So great.
yes, and they're just a sampling, but what makes it work is that it's natural for who your audience is, right?
Right. But it's also a pairing event. So you're pairing your book with something, with an event or a venue that's already getting traffic. Because
Mhm.
while bookstore events, and we love them, while bookstore events are great, and yes, bookstores get traffic, it is still on you to bring in the right traffic, which is why we talk about doing marketing for bookstore events and bringing in the right people and all the things, right? So if you have a book, for example, that ties into a wine bar or even a winery, right? So romance, women's fiction, those kinds of like fun things. I mean, your book doesn't have to be about wine to have it in a wine
No.
bar. I did, and this is super going to date me right now, but anyway, let's just go there. I did a book signing at a Blockbuster Video. So let's just get in our DeLoreans and go back in the time machine. And the book was pairing wine with movie wine pairing, a movie wine pairing book, for lack of a better way of saying it, because apparently I can't speak today. And plopped her into a Blockbuster Video on a Friday night. Who remembers? Are y'all old enough to remember the Blockbuster Videos? Like Friday night, you get your video for the weekend. It was super exciting. I used to love that. We had a Blockbuster near me. That was awesome. Now it's like a car shop or something. It's something super weird. But this author did really, really well, right? So
Not fun.
think about, and I've done actually cooking events with a cookbook author at like Williams Sonoma and fun places like that. I mean, and doing like, imagine going to a really busy gym. Of course, maybe they're busier in January, so pick your moments with that. But going to a really busy gym with your fitness book or even a nutrition book or something, figure out what the tether is, figure out where the connection is. And that's your first go-to, right? I mean, that's your first, that's the first potential for you.
Right. And similar to when we talk about, for those of you that have been listening a while, you've probably heard our episodes on media, right? Tying
Mhm.
yourself to media
Yeah,
and how making yourself relevant based on what people are already talking about and are interested in. This is very much that. So you are inserting yourself into something that already makes sense to who you're trying to reach.
exactly.
So there's that natural connection that happens because they are already gravitating towards these experiences, these places, these locations. And if you can put yourself there as well and improve the experience at the same time, that's where the real magic happens, especially with the store owner, venue owner, you know what I mean? Because then
Yeah.
they see the mutual benefit to pairing up.
Yeah. Because you do, and Amy makes a really good point. You do have to to convince them to some extent. I mean, some stores or venues or whatever will be very, very open to this. Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. All the things, great. But sometimes you do have to convince them. And in some cases, when you do these events, they'll say, well, but we can't stock your book necessarily, in our, like the stocking, it becomes sort of involved and yada, yada, depending on, whether it's a mom and pop or whether it's part of a bigger chain. And in which case, you can just sell the books outright or sell them on consignment with the venue. So there are some aspects that are going to require a little bit of forethought. I mean, just expect that some places are going to say, I've never done this before. In fact, there used to be and I'm just totally dating myself all over the place. There used to be a Fry's Electronics not far from me. And man, if any of you remember Fry's Electronics, here we go again in my DeLorean. Um, Saturday's Fry's Electronics, they were just like slammed. There were so many people in these stores. So I put, and this was actually an independently published author who had a book, and it was along the lines of like the For Dummies book for new computer owners, etc. And this was a long time ago. So this is back, I think, when the iTouch, like the Apple iPhone hadn't even launched yet. So this is a while back. And I went into this big retailer, big chain store, and the guy was like, well, we've actually never had an author do a signing and do it, blah, blah on a Saturday. I'm like, well, that's congratulations. This will be your first one.
Right.
And we did the books on consignment. And literally, like I told the guy, I'm like, look, you put some books in your trunk, bring all the books, because Saturday, people buying computers, getting excited. Oh, I really need this book. You are literally right in the middle of your exact right audience.
Mm-hmm.
What about, have you seen a lot of, because I love retail collaborations, Amy. Have you seen a lot of those? Because I think those are also just phenomenal.
Well, and what's interesting is that, yes. And what's very cool is that when I do see things like that, it always fits so well.
Yeah.
I don't really think about like, was this expertly planned? Was that, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it just is such a natural moment to see the book and go, oh, that fits here. Let me, you know what I mean? Let me thumb through this. So those are really fabulous too, because again, typically, if somebody's in a retail location, they're looking to spend money, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's great about that, is that they are already there to buy things. So this is naturally aligned with you getting your book in front of them for consideration as well.
Yeah.
So there's that natural retail aspect that already exists if you do a retail collaboration.
Right.
But similar to our first, we'll say it over and over again, the really sweet spot is figuring out what makes sense based on who they are already serving, who their clientele is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that, like if you have a romance novel doing an event, or even just a book placement in a florist shop, or or like a little gifty boutique, and suggesting like a book bundle with a candle or something that is, again, it has to fit the vibe of your book, which when I talked about Blockbuster and Fry's, those were all matches, right? Those were all like, audience matches for those, for those people. And here's the one thing that I want to mention too, is that when you think about, so I did a book signing at Hallmark years ago. I was actually in Hallmark doing a book signing. And one of the things, and this is before Hallmark got into all the Hallmark, movies, and they were publishing their own books and all the things. But when somebody goes into a gift shop, obviously, as Amy said, they're there to buy. And the same thing is true for card shops. So Hallmark is a great example. They're there to get a card, and many times they're very last minute trying to find a gift, which is, Hallmark has now since capitalized on that, right? So you can get pretty much all the things in these stores. But why not books? And in particular, one of the other things that that is important to mention here is that when you have a local anchor, so when you are local to and you're a hometown author, and they're like, people are more willing to open their doors to you for events or stocking or whatever when you're from their town, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, of course we want to help out a local author. Of course we want to help out a local author. So that's also part of your pitch too, is that as you're figuring out where these collaborations can happen, part of your pitch is, yeah, I'm a local author. So you're not like, in San Diego and you're trying to pitch somebody in Texas where you have no connection. They're like, well, what are you even doing here? Right.
Like, I do not have time for this.
Right. Exactly. And what about, Amy, farmers markets? What do you think about like farmers markets and stuff like that?
I actually see that a lot. We do. I will say my local community does a lot of markets, and there's a Saturday market, a Monday night market, a Thursday night market. Like, it's big here.
Wow.
I know we're kind of nicely situated to take advantage of a long, warmer weather season where things like this, people just want to be outside. They want to be doing the things. There's a lot of local makers and growers around here too. So again, I think those are awesome, because people that seek out markets and fairs and things like that, they are very much intentionally shopping local, shopping small. And I think that's where the biggest benefit is. You know what I mean? They are already going out of their way to find local, smaller businesses to do business with, to purchase from, things like that. So when they see an author, it just naturally fits in with what they're seeking out also, just based on that alone, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because we just had a craft fair, so we just had Patriots Day, and then they always do this big craft fair. And I always see authors at the craft fair, which I think is just so smart. And in some cases, I think this year there were 3 authors that were sharing a table, which again, so you're not there by yourself. You can take breaks, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
And I love that for just natural conversation starting too, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if anybody listening is not, if you don't consider yourself very extroverted, that's a really great way to put yourself out there in a situation that might feel a little more comfortable, because it's not just on you to entertain whoever stops by your table, right?
Right. Exactly. And then I think, you can also, so themed experiences, right? So anytime that you have an opportunity to anchor your book to something that's going on in your town, right? Maybe there's some big mystery thing going on and you're a mystery author. Historical fiction. Now, obviously, this is where, there might be a little bit of a disconnect if it doesn't take place in your town specifically, right? But historical fiction, if it fits in your town, then that's a good opportunity to do like a walking tour and a reading or something along those lines. So there's also, themed stuff that you could be doing. And we actually had an author who now this is an example of somebody who actually flew into a different town. So this isn't so much a local promotion, but she did a tour of ghost houses. She was a psychic, and she did a tour of psychic/medium ghost houses. And she came to San Diego and did this great event in one of our most, quote unquote, the Whaley House, one of the most haunted houses supposedly in, I don't know, this southern area of, West Coast or whatever. And that was really fun for her. And so she did those. So think about how you can, and that was obviously seasonal. That was around Halloween. So there's also a seasonal aspect to this too for your local marketing as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think seasonal and local is very much an untapped resource, because again, you have to put in the effort to make it make sense for the people that you're networking with. But at the same time, looking for ways to be different, looking for ways to cover topics, looking for ways to reach new audiences, to, you know what I mean? All the things is something that all small businesses are always focused on, right? So you make it make sense, but the holidays and seasonal things are something that everybody wants to try to take advantage of. So really, I think when you put in the effort to be thoughtful about how you pitch it, you're going to be surprised at how many people are interested in building something with you that is mutually beneficial. Because staying in business and doing your marketing and keeping new people coming in the store is not easy for anybody, right, Penny? So I really do think if you come at this the right way, and again, you're thoughtful and you're smart and strategic about why it's mutually beneficial and what you're going to do and how that works for your audience and their audience and all the things, which is actually the fun part. I really do think a lot of you listening would be surprised at how many yeses you get, because it does. It helps create something memorable and different for both you and them.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about doing school events, because school events are not just you can expand outside of, I'm a children's book author, or I'm, young adult or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about school events, Amy?
Yeah, I get so excited when my kids come home and talk about like, oh, and they just say it so flippantly, like they have no idea what I do. So
Right.
like, how was school? How was your day? We'll start talking, and then they'll randomly mention like, oh yeah, well, there was an author at the school, or we went to this place and saw an author. One of my kids went on a field trip somewhere, and I had no idea it was all based on seeing an author. I thought it was for I guess clearly I don't pay attention. I knew they were going on a field trip and I signed the form. But when she came back and said it was for an author that did in a pretty large venue here in town, I was blown away. I was like, that is so flippin' cool. How come I didn't get asked to help with this one? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, for older kiddos too, there's plenty of people that write. We work with authors all the time that recognize the opportunities in messages to young people, right? They may write about, their book may be more focused on adults, but there is clearly a thought leader, authoritative message that works for young adults as well. And it's such a great way to expand your market reach in a way that still makes sense for what you do and where your expertise lies. So career days, planning ahead. I mean, entrepreneurship, I think, is huge for these younger generations too. So much more. I mean, granted, they all want to be online doing it, which is fine, but it's huge. It really is a big thing for young adults now to carve their own path. And I think of all the books that and authors we've worked with, Penny, where there's a message in there for them if they were interested in doing local events and expanding beyond just the adult market.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, there are, if events aren't really your, like, oh, I have to kind of, ease myself into doing events, there are other things that you can do locally just to help to get, to get to know your local market. And they feel like micro promotions, excuse me, but they feel very small scale, but they can really have a big impact. So bookmarks. Now, I know, like, in an age of everything is digital, you would be amazed how many people still love bookmarks, because I read a mix of print and digital books. I use bookmarks all the time. And when I don't have a bookmark, I get annoyed because I have to use a sticky note. And I'm like, I work in the industry. Why don't I have a bookmark handy? So
right?
Bookmarks.
That's not cute.
Yeah. I met an author one time at a conference, and this was actually the only promotional effort that she did. She had bookmarks everywhere. She got to know all of her local, every single local vendor, and she had bookmarks in dry cleaners, at, laundromats, in salons, in cafes, everywhere she left bookmarks. So,
I love that.
yeah, exactly.
I love the idea of combining, sorry, Penny, I love the idea of combining the physical with the digital,
I do too.
Like,
yeah.
as I'm sitting here, I'm like, put a QR code on your bookmark that leads to a sample chapter or two. So while somebody's waiting, while somebody's waiting, they can kind of get into your book just enough to where they're like, okay, now they're keeping the bookmark. Now they're checking the book out when they get home. You know what I mean? Like, give them that initial experience. And that is the one thing that's so great about the digital, is that now you can do the physical and then the digital can enhance it to keep them in your funnel, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I love the idea of doing the sample chapter. And that way, that, like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to hold on to this bookmark and I'm going to buy this book. And you've just sold a book. And I just think that authors don't, it is our natural inclination as authors to want to go big or go home, right? Like, that's kind of it. Like, I want to just do all the things and is the Today Show on tap, or to, like, what's happening? And we so much overlook our local market, which is really unfortunate, because it is, this is where a lot of the local influencers are tethered to bookstores and libraries. In fact, getting to know your local vendors and getting to know some of your local stores outside of bookstores can actually help you to get into local bookstores too, because they all talk to one another. They're part of local, council meetings and things like that. And you would be surprised at how much of a difference that it makes. It's also really a great way to build your local fan base, which can help you to expand outside of local, right? What did we miss? What did we not talk about?
I mean, I think I love that we made some notes on this, just because we did a recent episode on street teams and super fans.
Yes.
So I think it's worth, if once you start, and we also say all the time, when you do one thing, turn it into at least three things, right? Like,
yes, for sure.
One thing typically doesn't work all on its own. It can move the needle a little bit, but when you can easily morph that one thing into three different areas of promotion, then you're absolutely maximizing your time and effort. So local, I think it goes both ways. I think as an author, having a presence, and this is for the people that are not social media versed, but you can also do call outs on your blog, in your newsletter. But I think also showing the love is a great way to get love back. I went very woo with that. Sorry, but truly tagging local businesses that you frequent regularly, mentioning them in your newsletter, things like that. This shows that you're actively engaged with what's going on locally. And that also improves your pitching and networking as well. So when they go to check you out, they're going to see that, oh, this person actually, they're regularly tagging local businesses. They're doing mentions. They're doing the work, right? They are being a part of the support network. But then also when you're putting yourself out there, encourage people locally to post photos, encourage them to have them tell their friends about your book. You need to actively, I know it sounds like natural. I think there's a lot that goes on in book marketing, Penny, that feels like a no-brainer. Like you buy a book, you post a review, right? Unfortunately, people need reminders. People have the best of intentions, but the reminders absolutely need to happen,
Yeah.
So when you meet somebody, encourage them to tell a friend, encourage them to post a photo of them with the book or just the book where they end up reading it. You know what I mean? These little touch points, this kind of social proof that you're creating dramatically amplifies your level of professionalism. And like we say all the time, people like what other people like. So just a few mentions like this can do a lot for your credibility locally.
Well, and it's also good too, like you said, so you're building these relationships locally. They're getting to know you. These vendors do talk to one another. Like we had such a great event. Like, why you should have this person in your store, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where bookstores typically won't do that. So let's say you're lucky enough to live in a town where you have, let's say, 3 bookstores in your town. If one bookstore has you doing an event there, the other 2 typically won't, just because they know that every time that you do an event in a bookstore, the traffic gets smaller and smaller. So by the time you get to number 3, you have, instead of like 50 people at your first event, you have maybe 5. So bookstores typically won't. And what I mean by that is do it in quick succession. So if you do one like once every quarter, then that's fine. But typically, whereas local, so different types of like boutiques and salons and whatever it is that fits the vibe of your book, wineries, whatever, they typically don't have the same parameters. So you could end up literally bouncing from again, as applicable to your book, bouncing from one event to the other, because they're like, no, we're all pulling in different people. And they're much more open to doing these events. So as you're building these relationships, you're sharing these events, you're building these relationships. The other thing that we need to mention too is you're also building your media room on your website. Yes. So like Amy said, you got to reuse and reuse and repurpose and redo all the things, maximize every single placement that you've got, and put that in the media room of your website. Because as you're doing these events, you're also going to reach out to local media. And I'm pretty sure that we have a show. We know we've done a couple of shows on media, that we have one on local media. But local media loves to cover local authors specifically. And what they love even more is to cover a local author who's doing an event in a really unique venue, right? Where you don't ever think that you're going to find a local author.
So, exactly.
So that's another opportunity to consider too. And media likes media. So as you're building up these relationships, we've known authors to do this and do this very successfully, and just literally bounce from store to store to store doing events in their local area, and they do very well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an overlooked opportunity that we just wanted to talk about on the show today, and we hope that you've enjoyed this show. We love your show ideas, so please definitely reach out to us. Text the word podcast to 888-402-8940. We really want to hear from you. And as I said, hopefully by the time this episode hits, my local book marketing book will be up for pre-order on Amazon. Hopefully, because that's been a long book birthing process.
Yes. I know. We'll need a big party for that one.
We'll need a really big party for that one. Well, listen, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.